Okay guys, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Now, fasten your seatbelts. Here we go. Alright guys, I'm back. It's Monday, June 1st, and we are going to get caught up with the Q post. Q has been posting again today, so I'm going to jump right into that. I do have a few people to thank, but I'm going to do that in the next video. I want to get through as much Q as possible because just the Q post alone is probably going to take 2 videos, and then I have another video of news that I'm hoping to get to, because right now you pretty much have to keep up with the news every day or you can't keep up with it at all. So all right, well, let's just jump into Q right now and get that done so that we can see what Q has to say about everything that's been happening over the last few days, which is a lot. Again today, just overwhelmed with all the images and everything that's going on and all the talking points, because to say that they have pulled out all stops is almost an understatement, because I've never seen such an all-out attack on the president ever in my life. I thought it was bad before. That was nothing. That was child's play compared to what's going on now. So let's get to Q, and hopefully we will get to the news tonight as well. So I'm going to try and keep a steady pace through this. So I can try. I can always try. All right. So we are on drop 4352, and this is the 30th of May. Now we are, what was I going to say? Oh yes, we're picking up from the very last Q video that I did. We're just picking right up from where I left off there. So let's dive in. D's, which are the Democrats, are giving safe haven to Antifa, a far-left radical group of domestic terrorists. And they are, by every definition of the word, they are definitely domestic terrorists. And there's no question in watching all the videos and everything, I'm just struck that in every single riot, in every single view of the riot from different cities, and it is a riot. It's not, there are a few peaceful protesters, but what is happening is they're being joined by instigators and agitators who whip the crowd up, and they're the ones that are smashing windows and so forth. And they always seem to be dressed in black. They have something over their face, and they have a hoodie on, and a lot of them have backpacks. So anyway, no question that Antifa is the one that is agitating everybody and getting this all whipped up and burning things down. Anyway, this is a tweet by Donald Trump. Consideration is being given to declaring Antifa the gutless radical left whack jobs who go around hitting not only non-fighters, people over the heads with baseball bats, a major organization of terror, along with MS-13 and others, would make it easier for police to do their job. Yes, it would. And I have no doubt that there are MS-13 members among them. Also, isn't it interesting that it's the Democrats that released the prisoners right before this? Now, don't tell me this wasn't planned, because it was. And funny how you don't hear anything about the virus now. You know, all these people crowding and together, but you never hear anything about the virus. Now up here, they're still trying to, go on with the charade. But yeah, I think people are, and I think their narrative of the virus was falling apart. They needed something else, and they have to, because they're almost out of time. I mean, November's coming around pretty quickly. I wish it wasn't, because I want to be able to enjoy this summer for as long as possible, but it is. And they have pulled out all stops. Now, excuse me, I feel like I have a bat in the cave here. Anyway, this is a link to a state document, and we don't really have to even go out to it, because Q has pulled out the part that he wants us to read. So let's read. Irregular warfare, insurgency. Insurgency is the organized use of subversion and violence to seize, nullify, or challenge political control of a region. As such, it is primarily a political struggle in which both sides used armed force to create space for their political, economic, and influence activities to be effective. Insurgency is not always conducted by a single group with a centralized military-style command structure, but may involve a complex matrix of different actors with various aims, loosely connected in dynamic and non-hierarchical networks. To be successful, insurgencies require charismatic leadership, supporters, recruits, supplies, safe havens, and funding, often from illicit activities, or from really fat cats like George Soros. That's not in there, I just added that. They only need the active support of a few enabling individuals, but the passive acquiescence of a large portion of the contested population will give a higher probability of success. This is best achieved when the political cause of the insurgency has strong appeal, manipulating religious, tribal, or local identity to exploit common societal grievances or needs. Insurgents seek to gain control of populations through a combination of persuasion, subversion, and coercion, while using guerrilla tactics to offset the strengths of government security forces. Their intent is usually to protract the struggle, exhaust the government, and win sufficient popular support to force capitulation or political accommodation. Consequently, insurgencies evolve through a series of stages. Through the progression and outcome, though the progression and outcome will be different in almost every case. Location, cities, loss of control, Democrat controlled. Yes, the cities that have lost control are all Democrat. That should not surprise us, and they're whining and complaining like, why doesn't Donald Trump do something? But when Donald Trump offers to send military backup, they say, oh, no, thanks. We've got it under control. And you know why they say that? Because they don't want to accept help from Donald Trump. Of course not. They want it to be bad. They want it to bring terror. All right, so locations, cities, loss of control, Democrat controlled, yes, they are. Defined stand down, safe haven order. Define organized group. Coordination of organized and funded groups in Democrat-controlled safe haven cities across U.S. Pre-knowledge to groups, absolutely, absolutely. And then he says, thank you for playing. Have a nice day. Q. Now, there are some links here that we're going to go out to. The first, I believe, let's see here. All right, this is a press release by Jim Banks, Indiana's 3rd District. Washington, today, Representative Jim Banks sent a letter to FBI Director Christopher Wray requesting the FBI add a new subsection to its list of extremist ideologies that would include Antifa. This paves the way for the FBI to target Antifa as a domestic terrorism organization. Representative Jim Banks, the point of my letter is simple. Antifa employs violence to coerce Americans into silence. As a veteran of the war in Afghanistan, I am intimately familiar with the tactics of terrorist groups and how they employ fear, violence to silence political enemies. To my great surprise, we are witnessing similar style tactics right here in our country. The FBI must take this threat seriously. Note, in 2014 and 2015, Representative Jim Banks deployed to Afghanistan during Operations Enduring Freedom and Freedom Sentinel. He received the Defense Meritorious Service Medal for his military leadership in Afghanistan. So this is the letter, and I don't think it's not necessary for us to read that, but he had requested the FBI, Christopher Wray, to designate them as a terrorist organization. And they are a terrorist organization. There's no question about that. And let's come back here to the next and see what this is. And this says, Fitzpatrick condemns Antifa and political violence. This is July 19th, 2019. And it says a Washington, D.C. Congressman, Brian Fitzpatrick, this week sent a letter to Attorney General Bill Barr expressing his concerns over the recent assault of journalist Andy Ngo by the militant Antifa movement in Portland, Oregon. Antifa is a danger to the safety and well-being of the general public, said Fitzpatrick. Designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization would be a significant step to protect journalists like Andy Ngo and all Americans who exercise their First Amendment rights. Again, I don't think it's necessary for us to read the letter, as long as we understand that's two that have requested they be designated as a domestic terrorism organization, and they are. And I hear them saying, "Oh, well, they're not really terrorists because they're kind of loosely organized." Well, that doesn't mean anything according to the definition we just read that Q provided us. So let's go back and see the third link that Q has provided in this post. And it says 2 Republican senators introduce resolution to label Antifa as domestic terrorists. Now, this was July 21st, 2019. Senators Bill Cassidy and Ted Cruz have introduced a non-binding resolution that would label anti-fascist activities known as Antifa as domestic terrorists, according to the Washington Post. Antifa are terrorists, violent masked bullies who fight fascism with actual fascism, protected by liberal privilege, Cassidy said in a statement. Bullies get their way until someone says no. Elected officials must have courage, not cowardice, to prevent terror. While there is no specific crime called domestic terrorism, applying such a designation allows law enforcement to look into a suspect's known associates and affiliations. While conservatives and centrists have long blasted Antifa activities, who have been involved in street brawls with right-wing groups and left conservative journalist Andy Ngo bloodied in Portland, Oregon last month, critics of the measure have cited Antifa's lack of formal organizational structure and said this could open the door to overly broad enforcement, according to the Post. It is dangerous and overly broad to use labels that are disconnected from actual individual conduct, Haina Shamsi, director of the National Security Project at the American Civil Liberties Union, told the Washington Post. As we've seen how terrorism has been used already in this country, any such scheme raises significant due process, equal protection, and First Amendment constitutional concerns. Can we have a collective eye roll here? Right. The Anti-Defamation League added that Antifa's unstructured, leaderless nature could create an opening to apply the label to anyone demonstrating against the far right or white supremacists, adding that while the group opposes Antifa violence, the activists have not been linked to any killings compared to hundreds of killings by far-right extremists in the past decade. Right. All right. It's crazy. It really, it almost, I will not be surprised when this is all over if we have a large increase in mental illness, because what we're hearing, the two sides, we're always hearing opposites, and we're always having to determine who's telling the truth, who isn't. Just like, oh, the public shouldn't wear masks. No one should wear masks. They should save them for the hospital personnel, etc., the first responders, etc. Then it's everybody needs to wear a mask. You can't come in these stores unless you wear a mask. That drives people crazy. It's crazy-making behavior. It really is. And it's so bad right now. It's so bad. Like, I listen to Fox. I don't listen to CNN. I listen to Fox just to keep up with everything that's going on and to show me what I need to dig into further and so forth. But I'm telling you, it's coming very, very quickly when I won't even be able to listen to Fox, because some of the people they have on in the afternoons, talk about crazy making. Anyway, let's move on. Now, Lisa Mae Crowley said Soros' army of insurgents doing everything by the book. FBI should label Antifa extremist ideology. Antifa should be labeled domestic terrorists. Senators agree. Well, there's no question in my mind that they need to be labeled as terrorists. That's what they're doing. You don't think they're terrorizing the cities right now where they're having these protests? Antifa was organized, this is Sun Q2, Antifa was organized in accordance with the deep state playbook for overthrowing countries by using insurgencies. POTUS has called Antifa out as a terrorist group, but DOJ has not yet adopted this designation. Republicans requested Antifa be designated a terrorist organization. The question is when? Why haven't they been rounded up and arrested already? I think POTUS and AG Barr are waiting for the most opportune time and are collecting additional evidence, so the terrorist designation and forthcoming tribunals against those funding and organizing Antifa, Soros, Schiff, behind the scenes will lead to airtight cases and convictions. I'm praying this will finally lead to the arrest of Soros in the next month or two. Antifa and Black Lives Matter were active last summer, and they've been relatively quiet until now. They were given a stand-down order until now. They have been hiding in Democrat-controlled cities and states and further organizing the last few months. Dems are now pulling out all stops and have activated their army of losers for the beginning of summer. People appear to be waking up to these facts. However, how is it that organized riots came together within 48 hours of George Floyd's death in several Democrat-controlled cities? Many of the African-American protesters who have legitimate reasons to be angry and protest are calling these scrawny losers dressed in black for instigating destruction of businesses. I've seen several videos where there are African Americans pleading with these people, and they're white. A lot of them are white, pleading with them, stop, you're making us look bad because we're getting blamed for this. They're begging them to stop. It's not them. The vast majority. Now, of course, those looting and tearing through malls, that's something completely different. But, a lot of people were attempting to protest non-violently. It was peaceful, but when Antifa shows up, well, all bets are off. Okay, let's move to the next one. And this is exactly the same one that we've seen, except that Q is telling us to ignore misspellings in the previous drop. So this is the same post, more or less. And it says warfare, misspelling, unintentional, on the move, Q. So that was just a post letting us know that there was a misspelling in the previous post and it was not intentional, because we've been told by Q to pay attention to misspellings and everything. We're to pay attention to all of that. But usually if it's done, as a typo or what have you, Q will come back and say that, that was unintentional, which he's done here. All right, we are now on, still on the 30th of May, and we are on drop 4354, 4354, POTUS, FBI, DOJ, and DHS action coming against Antifa. And it says, anti-American, yep. Domestic terrorists, yep. Organized, extremely. Fascists, yep. Extreme radicals, Violent, oh yeah. POTUS action coming, that's a period. That he's not asking a question, he's making a statement there. POTUS action coming. Homeland Security, FBI, DOJ, action coming, period. No question mark. Investigations may lead to domestic and foreign support targets. Q. Excuse me. Now, Lisa Mae Crowley says, yes, POTUS action coming to deal with these anti-American terrorists. Looking forward to DHS, DOJ, FBI actions too. Investigations will most certainly lead to Soros and Dems, both domestic and foreign support organizations. Example, Brenner, Center for Justice, and Open Society Foundation. Absolutely, and POTUS has already put that forth, that he's going to be designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization, which they clearly are. Now we are on drop 4355, and they want you divided and fighting each other. United, we will defeat them. And it says they want you divided. They want race wars. They want class wars. They want religious wars. They want political wars for God and country. Learn. Stay strong. Stay together. Good advice. Very good advice. They're most definitely trying to divide us. Absolutely. Okay, and we are now on drop 4356. 4356, volunteers in Minneapolis helping neighbors clean up business damage. And Q says humanity at its finest. I would agree. Let's take a look. And now this warms my heart. People trying to sweep up the glass and everything else, and that's in Minneapolis, and they're helping clean up all the broken glass and scrub all the graffiti off the stores. You know, this is wonderful. Look at how many people are out there. It's awesome to see. All right, I find when the worst of humanity shows up, the best of humanity shows up as well. I don't know why that is, but it gives an opportunity for those that don't have that hate in their heart to come forth and really help their neighbors. This is their community. I'd be out there helping to clean up my community too, or do what I could. I'm limited because of my back, but I would be out there helping to do whatever I could. If not, I'd be transporting people with my car, doing whatever I could, or making sandwiches for them, something, because that's your neighborhood. All right. Okay, we are on drop 4357. 4357. Black patriots protect lone police officer from Antifa terrorists. This police officer here in the background there, let me see if I can make this a little bit bigger for y'all. Okay, in the background, there's a police officer, and he's been separated from the rest of the police officers. So he's in a lot of trouble there because of Antifa. And it says, these men are protecting an officer that was separated from his team, was outnumbered and in danger. This made me cry, because look at these guys protecting him. That's awesome. They're doing the right thing. And it really does make me want to cry. It really does, because, everybody's, trying to blame this on the African Americans, and they're the ones starting it. No, they're not. No. Okay, yes, they were looting. They were doing, okay, some people are opportunists. No getting around that. But the vast majority are good people. All right. So for just like the white people, there's white people in there smashing the windows and looting and everything else. It's like when people say it's just black people, it enrages me. No, it's not. It's not. Okay, and it says, this is drop 4358. 4358. Be vigilant for more organized attacks by far left extremist groups using Antifa-like tactics. And Q says, be vigilant. Now let's go take a look at this. Okay, let's listen to Bill Barr here. And he says, in many places, it appears the violence is planned, organized, and driven by anarchic left extremist groups. We looked at this in my news coverage, actually, but we will play it again for you. Okay.
Have been filed by the state. That process continues to move forward, and justice will be served. Unfortunately, with the rioting that is occurring in many of our cities around the country, The voices of peaceful protest are being hijacked by violent radical elements. Groups of outside radicals and agitators are exploiting the situation to pursue their own separate and violent agenda. In many places, it appears the violence is planned, organized, and driven by anarchic and left extremist groups, far left extremist groups, using Antifa-like tactics, many of whom travel from outside the state to promote the violence. We must have law and order on our streets and in our communities, and it is the responsibility of the local and state leadership in the first instance to halt this violence. The Department of Justice, including the FBI, the U.S. Marshals, the ATF, the DEA, and our 93 United States Attorney's Office, U.S. Attorney's offices around the country, are supporting these local efforts. We'll continue to support them and take all action necessary to enforce federal law. In that regard, it is a federal crime to cross state lines or to use interstate facilities to incite or participate in violent rioting, and we will enforce those laws. Thank you.
All right. I really like Attorney General Bill Barr. I really do. He just seems to be kind of with it. He's a good man, it seems, anyway, from outward appearances. Okay, now let's come back here. And Lisa Mae Crowley says, I believe POTUS has intel Antifa plans on showing up tonight at White House and elsewhere wearing MAGA gear. Minnesota governor and mainstream media already trying to paint violent rioters as white supremacist nationalists would strongly advise staying far away. And Sun Q2 said, it's almost as if Q knew AG Barr would be speaking on this topic before he spoke on it. Yeah, it's funny how he would know that. All right, let's move on. And sorry, there's a yawn coming, and I don't know why, because I'm really not tired. Anyway, it's interesting because the things that Antifa was putting out yesterday was talking about going into the suburbs, going to where the white people live. That's a little bit scary. It's one thing to attack a business. It's quite another to attack somebody's home. And that might work in some of these places where, they ban guns, but that wouldn't work in a lot of places because people are armed to the teeth. And they wonder why people need guns. Well, this is the reason. Okay, so let's look at this. This is 4359, drop 4359. FBI's top swamp lawyer, Dana Boente, ousted amid criticism for role in Flynn investigation. Well, let's look at this. And Q says, update the list. So he's wanting, he's asked Anons to keep a list of everybody that has been, out, leaves, whatever, fired, however. So he is added to the list. FBI's top lawyer, Dana Boente, ousted amid Fox News criticism for role in Flynn investigation. Boente was asked to resign on Friday, and two sources familiar with the decision to dismiss him said it came from high levels of the Justice Department rather than directly from FBI Director Christopher Wray. Isn't that interesting? After a 38-year career with the Justice Department, the FBI's top lawyer, Dana Boente, was asked to resign on Friday. Two sources familiar with the decision to dismiss Boente said it came from high levels of the Justice Department rather than directly from FBI Director Christopher Wray. His departure comes on the heels of recent criticism by Fox News for his role in the investigation of former Trump National Security Advisor Michael Flynn. A spokesman for the FBI confirmed to NBC News that Boente did in fact resign on Friday. Fox News has recently criticized Buente's role in the investigation of Flynn, whose criminal charge for lying to the FBI was recently dropped by the Justice Department, based in part on the argument that his lies were not material to an underlying investigation. Buente also said in a recent leaked memo that material put into the public record about Flynn was not exculpatory for the former National Security Advisor. The memo undermines the Justice Department's latest position that material about Flynn was mishandled by prosecutors. Fox Business host Lou Dobbs said on April 27 that shocking new report suggests FBI General Counsel Dana Buente was acting in coordination with FBI Director Christopher Wray to block the release of that evidence that would have cleared General Flynn. So obviously we know who Buente is aligned with, the deep state. Now I'm not going to go through and read all of this, but let's go back and I'll close some of these down. And let's go back. All right. Now, Lisa May says Buente said in recent leaked memo that material put into the public record regarding Flynn was not exculpatory. Memo undermines DOJ's latest position that material regarding Flynn was mishandled by prosecutors. All resignations tracked here. And well, this isn't really, well, it is a resignation, but it's a forced resignation. And of course, Q is asking Anons to keep track. Now, this is from Sun Q2. Update the list of firings to include top lawyer at FBI, Dana Buente. It's about time he was fired. I would have to agree with that. All right, and we are now on drop 4360, still on May 30th. This is Call the Ball, Insurrection Act of 1807. Now, I must admit to you, I didn't know what that meant. Insurrection, not the Insurrection Act, but the other, Call the Ball. Insurrection Act of 1807, determination that the various state and local authorities are not up to the task of responding to the growing unrest. Call the ball. Q. So, this is the definition. Call the ball, commit to a course of action, make a final decision about a course of action. It's derived from the U.S. Navy terminology for a naval aviator, confirming he has the optical landing aids in sight prior to landing on an aircraft carrier. Famously used during the movie Top Gun, flight control, Maverick, you're at 3/4 of a mile, call the ball, Maverick, Roger, Maverick has the ball. So it means commit to a course of action. What is it? A Navy terminology for a naval Okay, he has the optical. Okay, I got it. He's got the optical landing aids in sight prior to landing, call the ball. So interesting that Q would use that. Now, Lisa May Crowley says, if POTUS goes this route, it would represent a significant escalation and a determination that the various state and local authorities are not up to the task of responding to the growing unrest. Well, are they? Clearly they're not. Their cities are being destroyed, but they still refuse to ask Trump to come in and help. He's offered. They've turned it down. And then they say, oh, Trump, his inaction is inexcusable. Right. And here is Sun Q2, POTUS giving local authorities one more chance to act to quell the riots, and then military stepping in. Basically, President Trump is giving local authorities a chance to correct the path they are on, but they will not take it because they are beholden to Soros and the Democrat power brokers. They will crash and burn, call the ball, definition attached. Now, it's interesting because if these riots, which they're instigating, get out of hand, the military will step in and martial law will be declared and there won't be an election. I don't think you can hold an election if you're under military law. I could be wrong. Maybe some of you know better than I, but I don't think you can. So I don't know. I just don't. I'd like to know how this ends. And of course, if we believe President Trump and Q, we know that it'll end well. I'm not 100% convinced of that, to tell you the truth. It's not that I doubt. It's just that Trump is a man. He's just flesh and blood. And I don't mean he's a man as in, anatomically. I'm meaning he is mankind. He is just flesh and blood. I don't know. I just don't know. I would like to just have blind faith in this, but I only have blind faith in one man. And you know who that is. All right. Let's go on now. Okay, now we're on drop 4361, 4361. Riots in Chicago, God save America. And this picture here, let me just make this a little bigger for you. It says every citizen in every community has the right to be safe in their workplace, safe in their homes, and safe on our city streets. This is the sacred right of all Americans that I am totally determined to defend. Amen. And beneath it says, on the ready, God save America. Q. Well, God will have to save America because we certainly aren't capable. We haven't done a very good job. And I mean all of us. I just, collectively. Yeah. Okay. Okay, this is Chicago protests, and this is something that horrified me, but let's watch. Okay. Whoops, sorry. Sorry. Yeah, that's horrifying because they were dragging that woman cop, and the male cop tried to step in, and then there was a third cop. But this is what the police are facing. This. So yeah, I think they're a little bit overwhelmed, and I don't think it's going well. I think that they need the military in there at this point. They're not keeping peace. And they're not able to. How can you go up against a mob like that? All right, let's come back. And I think that's pretty self-explanatory. And here we are on the 31st of May, which was yesterday. We are on drop 4362, 4362. The radical left's insurgency. And of course, we have this Antifa again thing, and this is the post that we looked at from the 30th of May that we just covered, where Q says anti-American, domestic terrorists, organized, fascists, extreme radicals, violent, POTUS action coming, period. Homeland Security, FBI, DOJ action coming, period. Investigations may lead to domestic and foreign support targets, Q. And beneath that, we have this tweet by Donald Trump. The United States of America will be designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. And says, I know we're beyond the need. This was an anon that posted this. I know we're beyond the need for Q proofs, but Q posts May 30th, 2020. POTUS tweet May 31st, 2020. Yeah, that was pretty quick, wasn't it? Now, how would Q have known? How would Q have known? Right. And we've got a link here, and beneath it, we have keyword insurgency. Let's take a look. All right. says they want a civil war. This is by Laura Ingram. They want a civil war. This has been their aim for decades. Even during Obama years, social media made their insurgency more efficient. And Dan Bongino said the radical left formally divorced itself from America last night. They are domestic terrorists and enemies of the United States. They should be treated as such. Now, let's take a look at this. Hard to believe that is the streets of America, isn't it? It is. I find it hard to believe. I also think it's weird that there's all these police cars. Like, I just don't get that. Like, where do the police go? I don't know. Okay, let's go back. We're making good time here. And let's come down to the next, and we are on drop 4363, and it says, next, counterinsurgency. What we have right now is insurgency. Now, Q is telling us what comes next is counterinsurgency. And again, we get this definition. Insurgency can be defined as the organized use of subversion and violence to seize, nullify, or challenge political control of a region. Insurgents seek to subvert or displace the government and completely or partially control the resources and population of a given territory. They do so through the use of force, including guerrilla warfare, terrorism, coercion, intimidation, propaganda, subversion, and political mobilization. Insurgents fight government forces only to the extent needed to achieve their political aims. Their main effort is not to kill counterinsurgents, but rather to establish a competitive system of control over the population, making it impossible for the government to administer its territory and people. Insurgent activity is therefore designed to weaken government control and legitimacy while increasing insurgent control and influence. Insurgents require supporters, recruits, safe havens, money, supplies, weapons, and intelligence on government actions. A robust insurgency can be waged with the support of just a small percentage of a given population. Next, counterinsurgency may be defined as comprehensive civilian and military efforts taken to simultaneously defeat and contain insurgency and address its root causes. Q. I think that is pretty self-explanatory. Now we are on drop 4364. The root causes of the less insurgency will be addressed. So Q is letting us know that, and this anon says, and addresses its root causes. Please and thank you. So this anon is more or less saying, yes, please, we need to address the root causes, and Q is acknowledging that and agreeing with it, because otherwise he would have countered that. All right, and now we're on drop 4365, still on the 31st of May, yesterday, and we've got this. It says Attorney General William P. Barr's statement on riots and domestic terrorism. Okay. Says Attorney General William P. Barr has issued the following statement. With the rioting that is occurring in many of our cities around the country, the voices of peaceful and legitimate protests have been hijacked by violent radical elements. Groups of outside radicals and agitators are exploiting the situation to pursue their own separate, violent, and extremist agenda. It's time to stop watching the violence and to confront and stop it. The continued violence and destruction of property endangers the lives and livelihoods of others and interferes with the rights of peaceful protesters as well as all other citizens. It also undercuts the urgent work that needs to be done through constructive engagement between affected communities and law enforcement leaders to address legitimate grievances. Preventing reconciliation and driving us apart is the goal of these radical groups, and we cannot let them succeed. It is the responsibility of state and local leaders to ensure that adequate law enforcement resources, including the National Guard, where necessary, are deployed on the streets to reestablish law and order. We saw this finally happen in Minneapolis last night, and it worked. Federal law enforcement actions will be directed at apprehending and charging the violent radical agitators who have hijacked peaceful protest and are engaged in violations of federal law. To identify criminal organizations and instigators and to coordinate federal resources with our state and local partners, federal law enforcement is using our existing network of 56 regional FBI Joint Terrorism Task Forces. The violence instigated and carried out by Antifa and other similar groups in connection with the rioting is domestic terrorism and will be treated accordingly. Amen. Bill Barr. That was Sunday, May 31st. That was given. So that was his statement on the riots and domestic terrorism. All right. And let's move on now to 4366, drop 4366. Mapping the Antifa network started a long time ago. And it says Antifa mapping started a long time ago. Now, I'm not sure what he means by mapping. Is that they've started investigating and determining where these cells are active, or does it mean something else? I would really like your opinion on this. I think it means that that they have already had their eye on this group and have begun mapping where they are active and who they're connected with and so forth. That's what I think it means. If you have an alternate explanation, I would be delighted to hear it. I really would. Okay, so now we are on drop 4367. 4367. POTUS retweets a major QAnon account, Sean Corrigan, talking about the storm. Yes, and immediately after Q posted that, Twitter took down his account. Sean Corrigan. I've never heard him tweet, and I follow him. I've never seen him tweet anything that's remotely, insightful, or not insightful, but like would incite anyone to violence or anything like that. Never, ever. He is a Patreon. Or he is a patriot, rather. No, sometimes I wonder where my mind goes. POTUS retweets a major QAnon account, Sean Corrigan, talking about the storm. And here it is, Donald J. Trump, and he's retweeting this, and he said, strength. And Sean Corrigan said, we know the moment would arrive. We are the calm before the storm and after the storm. We are the calm before, during, and after the storm. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we will have to face the final demand, the ultimatum. And then what? And what then, Reagan? I'm sorry, it's very, very tiny and blurry, so it's very hard to read. I think it says we are the calm before, during, and after the storm. If we continue to accommodate, continue to back and retreat, eventually we have to face the final demand, the ultimatum, and what then, Reagan. So all he was doing there is quoting Ronald Reagan, and he is removed from Twitter. And why? Because POTUS retweeted him. That is disgusting. And this person says, oh, shite, and Q down here agrees. So that is why he was taken off of Twitter, and underneath it says trolling is fun, Q. Well, he was having fun trolling, but poor Sean Corrigan lost his Twitter account with all his followers, and that is so unfair. Not Donald Trump's fault, but Twitter you know, they're not going to stop. They're not going to stop. All right. Then we are on drop 4368. Mainstream media, as the president takes on Antifa, he seems to be amplifying another group, QAnon. Yes, you knew that was coming. All out attack on QAnon as well right now. And Q says, buckle up. Here we go. Q. Hey, that's what I say. Buckle up. Here we go. Okay, now let's take a listen to this. MSNBC equates QAnon with Antifa. Well, mainstream media, they'll never get it right.
This also, he has just tweeted about Philadelphia and somehow saying it is the fault of the elected officials, but only really saying that the blame lies with those who are Democrats, which is significant, Stephanie. And I believe as he is taking on Antifa, if I'm not mistaken, the president has just elevated something that comes from QAnon, another extremist group. So as he's trying to take on one, he seems to be amplifying another. The president didn't have any events here open to the cameras here.
So, yeah, and I'm sorry that this is so low. I can't help it. My volume's up full blast, but this was just recorded very, very low. But interesting that this is what MSNBC is up to. And I'm seeing it more and more, like in Twitter, Facebook, you name it. It's everywhere. Everybody's trying to equate QAnon with Antifa and mixing up Antifa with QAnon, saying it's these people that are, instigating this. It's craziness. All right, so we are now on drop 4369, and it says Patriots clean up graffiti on Utah State Capitol building. This did my heart good as well, and it says humanity at its finest, together we win. That is so true. And says this is what Utah is all about. Utah State Capitol. So this is really nice to see, actually. Very, very nice to see. Let me get this. That is nice to see. Lots of good people still left in this world, I guess. And you'll notice there's blacks and whites together there working. The police are there working. That is so nice to see. I like Utah. I only was there just briefly because I had gone, I guess with my mom after my biological dad died. We had gone to the Grand Canyon, and I visited Utah then, just a little bit of it. And it's beautiful, absolutely beautiful, breathtakingly beautiful. All right, well, let's go back. Okay, and now we are on drop 4370, Q plus video, Trump, the establishment. So let's go take a look at this. Now, I don't think I'm going to be able to play this, to tell you the truth, because I think there's music in it. It says Twitter doesn't like this video being posted on their platform. They even banned the person who posted it as soon as Donald Trump return tweeted it. So give it a watch and return tweet. Now, if there's music in this, I'm not going to be able to play it.
Only a question of when.
Yeah. Okay, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to take this and I will put it in the first pinned link, or the first pinned comment will have this in it for you to watch and peruse at your will and leisure. So that's what I will do. I'm just going to put this up at the, I'll lose my place. Let me do this. Just so I don't forget it, because you know what happens is I go on and then I forget it. So okay. All right, so let's go on. And we are on drop 4371. 4371. POTUS is in the woodshed situation room, monitoring events, not an underground bunker. So it says, false, woodshed utilized regarding intelligence management, monitoring of situations, Q. Now this link leads to this. And this is what they were saying. Nervous for his safety, secret security agents abruptly rushed the president to the underground bunker used in the past during terrorist attacks. As protests and violence spill over, Trump shrinks back. The president spent Sunday out of sight, berating opponents on Twitter, even as some of his campaign advisors were recommending that he ... Now, this is interesting because I was watching during that, when they were covering that in Washington, and I heard them saying that, and I thought, I don't know if that's true or not. Now, yes, I mean, he would have every right to be concerned. These people, do you think if they could have got a hold of him, what do you think they would have done to him? Well, you know. So, and he's saying it's false. This is just more fake news, because he wasn't in the underground bunker. He said false. Woodshed utilized regarding intelligence management, monitoring of situation, and then with an S, situation, situations, Q. And I have no doubt that he was monitoring it very, very closely. Okay, and this by Lisa May Crowley. It says reports that Antifa is headed for DC and POTUS is hiding in bunker are fake news. POTUS currently in Situation Room, aka Woodshed, most likely with NSC monitoring intel regarding riots nationwide. And Sun Q2 says Q calls out fake news. POTUS was not taken to the woodshed for his protection, but to monitor situations. Woodshed is another name for situation room. POTUS taking intel and monitoring Antifa-led riots. His safety was never in doubt. And let's move on to drop 4372. 4372. 11, there is an insurrection taking place right now. Governors must call in the National Guard. And this is the tweet right here by Mark Levin. 1, there's an insurrection taking place now. Anarchy. The governors must send in the National Guard. The president must now lay the legal predicate for potentially sending in the regular military. And Q says all assets being deployed, people used as pawns, controlled. And what he's saying is these people, Antifa and so forth, they're using people as pawns. And also the Open Society is paying people $200 to protest. And, you know, they're just manipulating these people. That's all they're doing. And the thing is, you know, I do believe there is so much. There are CCTV cameras everywhere nowadays. Plus, everybody has their cell phone out taking pictures. They're going to find these people that have been looting and doing this. They know who you are. They have ways of finding out. These people think, you know, they're oblivious to cameras and everything, looting and happy, and you really think they're not going to find out who you are? Really? Think again. Think again. All right, and now We are on drop 4373. 4373. The greatest coordinated disinformation campaign to ever be launched against the American people. And it says, you are witnessing the greatest coordinated disinformation campaign to ever be launched against the American people. Information warfare, infiltration versus invasion, insurgency, irregular warfare, Democrat efforts to regain power. And that is all this is. It is their attempt to regain power, and they will do anything. They don't care how many lives are lost. They don't care how many livelihoods are lost. They don't care how many communities burn down. They want power. That's what this is about. And Sun Q2 says, Q has said it numerous times, you are witnessing the largest and greatest coordinated disinformation campaign ever to be launched against Americans. We are in an information war. Hold fast to the truth, patriots. We are in the we are in the greatest disinformation campaign in the history of mankind. The forces of Satan empower the globalists. The Lord God fights for us and will empower us and enable us to defeat the forces of darkness. The deep state narrative broadcasts to the public that the riots and protests result from a white cop killing a black man. The deep state wants the public to believe a multiple city protest was organized within 48 hours of the death of George Floyd by Americans who are upset and angry over the death of Floyd, when the reality is the riots were funded and organized by the Democrats and Soros and carried out by Antifa and Black Lives Matter, which are militant arms of the Democrat Party. The narrative shift by the globalists resulted in 1. Attention removed from the blow back over Dem governors keeping blue states shut down. 2. Attention focused on a manufactured race war. 3. Distraction from the red states getting back to work and kickstarting their economies. Distraction from the CDC deception regarding the number of COVID deaths. Distraction from the source of COVID. Distraction from the dumpster fire known as Joe Biden campaign for president. Distraction from the setup of General Flynn. Distraction from the coup against POTUS and D-Class from DNI Grinnell and the new DNI director Ratcliffe. Distraction from the forthcoming Senate testimony of Rosenstein. And I could keep going. We are in the greatest informational and psychological war the world has ever seen. We will prevail. So well spoken, Sun Q2. Very wise words indeed. And drop 4374, be strong in the Lord. Be strong in the Lord, Q. And we are now on June 1st. So I think what I'm going to do here is I'm going to break and get this uploaded, and I'll do a separate video for today's post because I think it's just too long. If I don't break and make a separate video, it's going to be too long. I'm going to try to get through this, and I hope I still have the energy to do the news video because I so want to get to that. All right, guys. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And yeah, I'm going to use the next video and thank the people that I need to thank just in case I don't make it to a third video. So that's what I'm going to do. And thank you guys so much. I appreciate you listening, and especially you guys that have been regular listeners that listen all the time. There's a regular group of people that regularly comment, and kind of gotten to know your names and you know a little bit about how you think. So I feel like I know some of you guys. Anyway, you guys have a great night. Stay safe and keep seeking truth. Also, if you'd like to support the channel, you can support me through Patreon or through Ko-fi. The links are in the description, and I do appreciate it. All right, guys. Well, that is it, and I will see you in the next video.